I faced extraordinary backlash for standing up for myself. I am not the first. However, my intention is that I am the last. It's time that powerful figures in the music industry get the message that they can no longer afford to enable and protect sexual predators. I'm fighting to make the music industry a safer place to work and perform. Sweet! That's the best news I've heard since I started doing my research for this video. I just finished typing the script when I came across the news on Instagram, and I have Sloan to thank for that. I'm super happy for Melissa. Unfortunately, her fight is not going to be easy, and we're going to find out why. Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome for the first time. We're back to talking about Nick Carter and the lawsuit he's facing. We're returning to dangerous territory because this situation has taken a turn for the worse for his alleged victim, Shannon Shay Ruth. Why is that? Nick has filed a countersuit last February against her and another victim of an assault that allegedly took place in 2003, seeking over $2.35 million worth of damages. He stated that he has 12 witnesses, including a talent manager, that have claimed the incident at the 2002 concert in Tamaka, Washington, is quote-unquote factually impossible to prove. What worries me is that he's right. There is already scarce evidence other than Shay's recollections of the SA that can prove it happened. Her word alone is not going to be enough to convince the judge she had that experience. She's going to need all the help she can get from the other victims, her legal team, and Child USA. According to an article published on New Musical Express about a few weeks ago, Nick has now gone on to state that nobody waited in line for autographs at the concert and not one attendee was picked to join him on the tour bus. Maybe not at the concert itself, but the selection occurred long before then. Someone argued that Shay won a radio contest where the prize was meeting Nick at this particular show. The source isn't reliable because it's a YouTube comment on another video that covered the allegations against Nick, and audio of the broadcast that announced the results are not archived, but an argument was made that it is likely that Shay met him through a mutual connection. Currently, the Backstreet Boys are on tour in much of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, with fans still rallying in support for the band like no tomorrow. So at least for now, Nick is confident that Shay's lawsuit will be tossed out. He'll brush it off as if it's just another bad PR day. Case in point, Nick Carter would be able to continue his counterclaim against the woman who sued him for sexual battery, a judge said Wednesday. At a hearing in Las Vegas for which Carter was present, Judge Nancy Alf ruled that the Backstreet Boys singer, 43, can pursue his claims against Shannon Ruth, whom he says has falsely accused him in an extortion attempt. Ruth sued Carter in December, alleging that the star sexually assaulted her in 2001 when she was 17 and he was 22. He then filed a counterclaim against her in February, and weeks later, Ruth moved to have that counterclaim dismissed. She alleged at the time that the singer filed his counterclaim with the intent to harass and intimidate her, impede her right to free speech, and use his considerable wealth and celebrity status to outlast her. Wednesday's hearing was on Ruth's anti-SLAPP motion, and Carter's legal team presented evidence and 15 witnesses, including a friend who was with Ruth at the night of the alleged assault, to dispute her claims. The last time I covered the situation, I talked about how Shay is still processing memories of the SA over 20 years later, and how she and Melissa were on a podcast where they opened up about the ferocious backlash they had to endure when they first came forward. I looked up what a couple of his fans said in support for Nick and the Carter family in general. Many of them lately began to jump the gun and bought a book commemorating the band's 30th anniversary to spite the women fighting to hold him liable. They are incredibly zealous blowhards that don't give a damn about the disabled. Their sense of selves have been rooted directly to Nick, and that caused the Backstreet Boys subreddit to devolve into a school of piranhas whenever Shay and Melissa are brought up in a post. An alarming aspect of the situation I touched on was when someone claiming to be Nick's wife sent threatening messages to Sloan's father, and how Sloan had to file 2 police reports. When I heard about Sloan's predicament, I immediately panicked. I thought that if I dared to speak out against Nick myself, I would suffer the same fate he did. I was scared that his fans would flood my social media pages as if I had gone swimming in the Amazon River during its dry season, only for the piranhas to tear off my flesh. Fortunately, a bit of good did come out of taking that leap of faith. I noticed a small rise in subscribers on this channel, and I made a friend with a fellow Swiftie who's been concerned for Erin's well-being and has made videos on her own channel documenting incidents where Erin and herself were stalked by his exes. If you guys found me through my prior video, I want to say I am humbled by your support. Thank you so much for being here with me. For those of you that haven't seen it yet, don't you worry. I left a link in the cards and in the description to help get you up to speed. For the past couple months, I checked Sloane's Instagram stories often for updates such as if there's an ongoing investigation, anyone that had been taken in for questioning, or if the police caught the culprit. Unfortunately, there hasn't been anything new on his end since last December. The important thing is, Sloane is still kicking, he's still alive, and his family is safe. He started a new podcast series where influencer Eugenia Cooney was a guest and Perez Hilton was on another episode. There's more content to come, and he enjoyed himself in Coachella. Hello, present-day Wesley here. Do you mind if I cut in? So I recorded that section of the video during the time Sloane was in Coachella, but I found out this morning that he was cheated on by his significant other of 6 years while he was there. My heart broke for him when I watched that video, and Sloane, if you're watching this, I am so sorry that you had this experience, and I hope it gets better for you from here on out. Thank you so much for telling us and thinking of us, and I'm here for you if you ever need to talk. I'm relieved that he is alright, all things considered, and I couldn't be happier for him. Before I continue, I just need to make it clear that this video isn't about Sloane at all. We don't know what he's dealing with behind the scenes despite his lavish Instagram stories, and this channel doesn't exist to snoop into other people's private lives. Until something else happens to him that's connected to the Carter family, let's just let it lie. In this video, I'm going to assess the countersuit, why I disagree with the judge's decision to let Nick pursue it, and expand on a few details about his strained relationship with Erin Carter, as well as clarify on aspects of events leading up to his death that I missed. The short answer is, the countersuit is a resurrection of a smear campaign orchestrated by Nick's team to dispose of his victims. It's happened before when Melissa Schumann attempted to press charges on him in 2019, and allegedly, it happened to Paris Hilton in 2004. Paparazzi spotted her with unexplained bruises the week after she and Nick split up. It sparked a flurry of rumors that Nick had beaten her, causing him to fight tooth and nail that he is, and I quote his statement to People magazine, "I'm not that kind of guy. I would never do that," when the fact he instigated brawls at nightclubs in Florida on 2 separate occasions begs to differ. An anonymous source also told the New York Post that Nick definitely hit Paris. The publication is generally garbage, so I find it hard to believe that they'd be the first to know, though I'm not surprised that it's something Nick would do. Both he and Paris also have memoirs out. Nick said in his that Paris was a bad influence on him, so if you'd like me to review them, let me know. Be that as it may, Shay is undeniably at a disadvantage, and the chances that Nick will be let off the hook again are high, but she'll still be given a chance to let her voice be heard, and hopefully she'll go into more specific detail about how she met Nick when the trial begins. If she can muster the courage to recall that moment in her life, his side of the story could potentially fall apart. At the beginning of February, Page 6 published an article that describes Nick's allegations against Shay Ruth and Melissa Schumann that he listed in the countersuit. Although it is another crappy tabloid, the journalist that wrote the article did a great job sticking with the facts. It goes into detail on the allegations without convincing its audience to believe one side over the other, and it includes statements from both Shay's and Nick's legal teams that were provided to them. Needless to say, the comments at the bottom were misogynistic and once again were dealing with the age-old harmful questions to ask a survivor of assault. Why didn't they report it after it happened? What took them 20 years to finally speak up? It might seem like you're trying to help the victim by trying to understand what happened and why. Maybe your heart was in the right place, which could very well be true, but it doesn't work that way here because your attitude suggests they were asking for the assault to happen. These questions places the survivor at fault for something that was out of their hands. They instill the idea that if they behaved a certain way, picked a different outfit to wear, or just not be at a place where they're likely to run into their abuser, the latter wouldn't give in to their urges and the victim would be fine. In Canada alone, 97% of SAs are never reported to the authorities because of responses that are no different than the comment section in the article. In the United States, 40% of us SAs were reported in 2017, while a year later, that number sunk to 25%. If you're wondering why many survivors of SA and domestic violence hesitate to confide in their friends or even the police, they fear retaliation from the perpetrators, rightfully so, since Nick's filed his countersuit and his fanbase celebrates his move like they're at a gender reveal party. Additionally, victims of assault are scared the police would not or could not do anything to help them. One horrific case that took place last year was where a woman in Texas was stabbed to death by her ex 1 week after she reported his abuse. Up until she was found dead, the police did nothing when the woman told them her ex was a violent man, not even issue a protective order as a precaution. Likewise, Shay confided in some of her friends, including one person that left a comment in Kayla's video who claimed to know the victims personally, that she was terrified that Nick was going to go after her if she spoke up and relayed her fear during the press conference last December. She said that Nick threatened that if she told anyone, he would turn people against her and he has the means to wreck her life. Nick Carter is fighting back against his rape accusers in a court of law, claiming he is a victim of extortion and defamation. Page 6 obtained a countersuit the Backstreet Boys member, 43, filed on Thursday against Shannon Ruth and Melissa Schumann, alleging the two women orchestrated a sexual misconduct conspiracy for monetary gain. However, Ruth's attorney, Mark J. Boscovich, alleges to Page 6 exclusively in response, "Why should Nick Carter be believed with his long history of abusing females? A jury will weigh the evidence and decide." Schumann's lawyers could not immediately be reached. Where did the idea that they extorted Nick come from? Other than the next fangirl and a lawyer with ties to the Carter family, who said anything about Shay and Melissa looking to make a few bucks by besmirching a celebrity's name? The accusation appears too weak to hold water. Though compensation is an essential reward should these women prove that Nick can't keep his hands to himself, it's not their end goal. They want to hold him accountable for his actions and see to it that he doesn't target and hurt anyone else. As we've seen from the death threats Sloan received and how far Nick's fans are willing to go to dehumanize and isolate his victims, his team is more than keen on doing that work for him as time goes on. Nick's career didn't suffer much after the allegations against him came out. The only known consequence was that ABC pulled a very Backstreet holiday off the air and added reruns in its place. It wasn't like it was highly anticipated to begin with, and stans have gotten their hands on copies of the titular album for Christmas, so they didn't miss out entirely. Nick's also currently on tour, like I said, but before it began, his band performed at the charity concert thrown in Aaron's honor, and I use that word loosely, and at Our Heart Radio's Jingle Ball. Nick's on Cameo exclusively for business requests as well. At the time of this recording, he's not available to record personalized videos. I don't think he'll plan on doing so anytime soon, unless he's desperate, but if the ableist in his fanbase want to book him anyway, he charges $26,500 per promotional video. Yeah, you're better off investing in a new car. ABC's decision to nix the Christmas special barely made a dent in his career. He's doing great. Billboard reported that the DNA tour grossed $92,310,105 prior to the pandemic. I should be happy for him, according to the average fan, but in order for him to win this case, he's going to need more concrete proof than the "Shay was exploited into accusing me" conspiracy to prove that his reputation had taken a real hit. Let's pretend for a second a mastermind like a friend that hated Nick's guts or an authority figure in Shay's life did trick her into believing that he assaulted her. Now that she's gone through with it and it's gotten mainstream attention, what effect were they expecting their plan to have? Why aren't they cashing in on this outrage? What's taking them so long to come out of hiding? And why specifically accuse Nick of SA but not his bandmates? If Nick and his 15 witnesses don't have an idea on who they might be if questioned, it'll become clear that this quote-unquote mastermind is a character they made up to prevent Nick from getting in trouble. For him to simply claim that Shay and Melissa got together on a girls' night out to concoct a get-rich-quick scheme at his expense won't be simple to prove in the long run, because if they're friends like the individuals in the comments or their psychiatrists are called to testify, they can shut it down in a heartbeat. Carter claims in his countersuit that Ruth and Schumann were allegedly involved in a 5-year conspiracy to harass, defame, and extort him, which began with a salacious blog entry written by the He Loves You Not singer amid the Me Too movement. Carter alleges that Schumann and her father, Jerome Schumann, then groomed and coached a vulnerable and highly impressionable Ruth, who is autistic, to inflate her initial claims about being abused by a third party and instead make it about him. The Shape of My Heart singer notes that he has not been criminally charged for either of the alleged crimes. Carter made no offers to settle and refused to negotiate anything with Schumann or Ruth, not even when they specifically solicited a lowball offer, his attorneys also pointed out in the countersuit. That part of the countersuit takes me back to an encounter I had on Twitter with a so-called fan of the Backstreet Boys that felt bad for Shay, but not for the reason I anticipated. She feigned sympathy for her by tweeting that Melissa manipulated her into changing her story to further incriminate Nick when she actually didn't formally meet her until 2019. The context in this person's tweet is that some stans are now pointing fingers at Melissa for being the mastermind behind the conspiracy Nick is alleging because she was the first known victim to come forward. Since the charges she pressed against Nick were dismissed, she's trying again by intimidating a disabled woman to do it on her behalf while posing as another victim when in fact she is a legitimate victim. To add insult to injury, the so-called fan I encountered doubled down on her opinion by tweeting that Shay's trauma and cerebral palsy made her susceptible to manipulation. I was immediately agitated because she was making Shay out to be a pawn in the conspiracy solely because of her condition. Yes, mental illness and being on the autism spectrum can contribute to spotting details in a different light, and misunderstandings can happen, but to suggest that someone can't think for themselves if they're physically/mentally incapacitated is an act of ableism. Naming Melissa and her father in the countersuit tells me that Nick was in on the harassment campaign that drove her off of social media a few years ago. Why is this abuse by proxy alarming? The viral response to Melissa's blog entry about her experience was written by a writer for Nick's official website, Sara Taylor. The disclaimer she had included at the end indicated that the article was written as if she were an ordinary fan with too much time on her hands. But when you type Nick Carter's name next to hers on Google's search engine, the immediate results show it's a literal lie. These are the results you'll see when you type both of their names in the search bar. If an official member of Nick's team went out of her way to discredit an alleged victim with no impact on her job, that could mean her employer approved of the WordPress post, and he wanted to get the woman out of his life without having to do the work himself. It's a typical tactic for mainly narcissistic abusers to get their friends involved in isolating the people they've hurt. Shay addressed the conspiracy that Melissa intimidated her into changing her story to match hers in the episode of A Voice for the Kids podcast where she, Melissa, and her father were featured on. She said she knew what Melissa was going through when she heard her story, and despite being warned of what Nick's fanbase were going to do to her, both online and offline, she came forward so Melissa wouldn't feel alone. She pretty much debunked the conspiracy by revealing she never heard of Melissa, nor her career, until she discovered from the media that she was a fellow victim.
Shay, let us hear about your experience about the trolls. What's been going on?
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me a voice, because I feel like because my story hasn't been in the media or anything like that, and people don't know who I am, so I feel kind of like people and I don't know how, sometimes I don't know how to say what I mean without making it sound rude. So I'm sorry if it sounds rude.
Don't worry about it.
I feel like some people are like, well, her story hasn't been in the media, so it doesn't matter type thing. And I think that happens to a lot, even other survivors that he has that hasn't come forward. So I appreciate you giving me a chance to speak. I don't know, like going into it, like I came forward in 2000, so I've known them for about 2019. And I also just want to clear up, there's this big thing going around that me and the other survivors came forward because Melissa and Jerry are making us, and no, we're our own people. We have our own voice. I chose to come forward. I actually reached out to them because I saw what was going on with Melissa. And me, this is what I don't understand about other people when they see the harassment that's going on. I knew, okay, I didn't know her. I didn't know anything about her, didn't know anything about her group or anything like that. But like, honestly, people are people. I don't care about any of that stuff. All I cared about was, okay, this person is being trash talked and I know that she's telling the truth. What kind of a person would I be if I didn't come forward? And one of the first things that Jerry said to me was, you know, Shay, you're being really brave and, you know, I'm proud of you for coming forward, but I'm going to warn you, the troll attacks are intense. And I was like, no, okay, I got it. You know, I'm good. I got it. Nothing can prepare you for, this isn't bullying. This is like, these people have like no hearts. Sometimes I feel like it's like, they're not even human. Sometimes it's like the way that they can just casually call people the names that they've called us and do the things that they've done. It's just like, seriously?
You can't just say the allegations are part of a plot with barely anything to back it up because, as I mentioned, both women came forward on their own terms. The SAs they allegedly went through at Nick's hands occurred a year apart from each other, and neither of them went to the police right away because the people in their lives discouraged them to. It's not just that Nick Carter has a powerful legal team, but the lengths his fans are going to fan the flames that has made the neurodivergent look gullible and moronic is equally terrifying. Aaron Carter had a target placed on his back for showing support for Melissa and joining her in speaking out against his own brother. His deteriorating mental health that stemmed from years of being in the spotlight and being exploited by Sony, his exes, and family alike made it difficult for most people following him to take him seriously. An accusation listed on Nick's Countersuit portrayed Aaron as a demented individual that called him out because Melissa told him to. They then alleged that Schumann, Ruth, and Jerome snowballed their defamatory campaign into accusing Carter and others of participating in cover-ups and victim bullying. Carter also accuses the Schumanns and Ruth of preying on his brother, Aaron Carter, who died of a suspected drug overdose in November 2022. Schumann, Jerome, and Ruth exploited Aaron's fragile condition and family stresses to cloak their defamatory campaign, with credibility, relentlessly, and repeatedly using Aaron to try to legitimize their frivolous tales, the Quit Playing Games singer alleges. Odd choice of words for a song title, don't you think, Nick? Of all the accusations against Shay and Melissa in the Countersuit, this is the most outlandish I've come across. Aaron is one of the few people close to Nick that called him out for being problematic, and he wanted to help these women, but he wasn't able to out of fear of retribution from his family, his own team, and his brother's fanbase. He just wanted to be left alone. Unfortunately, even in death, his name is used as some kind of weapon to spread this narrative that Nick is a gentle soul that loved his brother, and I find that bizarre and disturbing. Before and during the time Nick and Angel went to court to obtain a restraining order against Aaron, he was dealing with multiple stalkers outside his house. One was an ex that Aaron used to date, and she allegedly went to Nick after they split up and told him that he threatened his then pregnant wife when it was discovered that he never did. That explained why Aaron was taken by surprise and tweeted a cluster of damning accusations about his siblings that aged considerably well. We're going to have a look at the Yahoo article that documented these tweets shortly, but first, Let us examine the stalking incidents that Aaron was powerless to stop. 2 months after Nick said he had to get that restraining order, Aaron tweeted a video of 3 individuals that his surveillance camera recorded trespassing in his driveway. One girl had her phone out before she blew a kiss at the camera. I don't know if she was recording anything, taking pictures of the house, or both, but an interesting detail was that she was aware that her presence was being monitored, so she left a parting gift for Aaron. Ew! It's unsettling to think that fans like her can get away with being this creepy in his driveway in the dead of night, when I've heard of people get punished more harshly by the law for smaller violations. Aaron is not the only actor to escape with the skin of his teeth when dealing with stalkers. In the early 1980s, when Jodie Foster was a freshman student at Yale, she was stalked relentlessly by a couple of men. One notorious individual attempted to assassinate then-President Ronald Reagan in 1981 to win her heart. Jodie was mortified that her name was linked to the act and barely said a word about it since, except in an essay she wrote about how it left a lasting impact on her mental health. She would cancel interviews if she found out the subject would be brought up. Jodie Foster tried to lead a normal life while attending Yale. Even as she became a bigger name in her adult life and has taken up filmmaking, she was never interested in becoming famous. She took up acting as a little girl because she enjoyed it as a medium, and starring in smaller projects like commercials gave her the experience that she used to be an efficient performer. She tried to attract as little attention as possible by making friends with her nonconformist peers and donned rebellious clothing. She still had fan mail delivered to her, but up until her stalker tracked her down to her college campus, she blended in with the student body. He wrote love letters and poetry that he personally delivered to Jodie's dorm. He eventually called her when she didn't reply to a single one, and the phone conversation made her uncomfortable. I mean, what reaction would you expect if you told your celebrity crush, "This is the person that put notes in your box for 2 days"? My heart would honestly skip a beat if I had that happen to me. Jodie made it clear that she wasn't interested in him and politely asked if she could hang up. Jodie turned over her stalker's letters to the dean soon afterwards. I don't know if the stalker was given a warning or was told not to come inside the residential hall where Jodie stayed, but whatever came of it didn't work. The more she ignored him, the more fixated he was on her, and that's what led him to attempt to assassinate Ronald Reagan. To recreate the iconic scene in Taxi Driver was a last resort for her stalker to get her attention. I wouldn't say he failed, but his plan didn't work out as he had hoped either. He put Jodie in a compromising position where she was forced to provide a videotaped testimony at his trial to stress that she had no relationship with him. She avoided the media as much as she could, except to say that she wished to resume her academic career and had to be accompanied by bodyguards to and from classes for her safety. Her stalker was found not guilty of 13 charges by reason of insanity and spent the next 35 years in St. Elizabeth's Hospital. He was discharged in 2016 under the condition that he must stay away from Jodie Foster, and he was forbidden from owning any memorabilia of her, including an autographed photo. It blew my mind to have discovered that his sentence ended just last year. He has since taken an interest in music and now has a channel on YouTube where he regularly uploads videos of himself performing original songs on his guitar. I'm happy to see that Jodie Foster has carried on her successful career in the film industry and is taking her privacy seriously. After surviving that scare as a freshman student and coming to the realization that fans can risk losing their sense of selves to get noticed by their idols, it's no surprise that she doesn't use social media. The same mentality goes with the girls that were loitering outside of Aaron Carter's house. He alleged that they did more than just stick around that night. He reported that when he arrived home the next day, his credit cards were stolen, his driver's license went missing, and the door was left unlocked. If their goal was to keep Aaron corralled in the neighborhood where Nick's associates can continue to keep tabs on him, it's not far-fetched to believe that the burglary was an inside job. The fact that the police did not get involved makes this theft worrisome because his assets could have also been stolen.
Alright guys, so they hacked into my ADT. This is the clip of the women last night waving at my cameras, blowing kisses, BSB gang stalkers, literally after me. So, they hacked into my ADT account. I got back into it. I see all the clips. I just had another person come in and try to say that they wanted to come into my house. My credit cards are stolen. My license is gone. Can't find any of my stuff. My door was wide open when I came back home. This is them last night at 1:52 in the morning when I was sleeping. This is what they're doing to me. 2 females and a guy, and I recognized them from yesterday. So, this is what's happening. So, and look, people are laughing at it.
The October before he passed away, the stalking incident had become so severe that Aaron tried to sell his second house to get away from them and begin life without his immediate family, but no one was interested. The sale never went through, leaving Aaron unable to properly function and focus on his music. Emma Watson is another high-profile actress that has taken drastic measures to maintain her privacy because of stalkers. While there was no particular incident that got as much attention as this stalker trying to get Jodie Foster to go out with him, there was one man that snuck onto the set of Noah to personally give her a handwritten letter. Emma was filming a scene near a forest when this man approached her, but when she noticed his presence, she screamed, thinking that he was going to abduct her. She recognized him as the same person that loitered outside her New York City residence, so the encounter had her shaken up. The man was apprehended by security and some stunt performers that just so happened to be trained in martial arts. He was then escorted off the set before police warned him about trespassing. Personally, he should have been fined for that. Since Emma needed time to decompress and the situation caused the movie's production to be delayed, it would have been a more effective penalty to help the officers get through to him. Additionally, it forced Emma to hire a former police lieutenant as her bodyguard in case this man and another stalker potentially turns up wherever she is, whether she's at a restaurant, out shopping, or in her own house. Along with her general concerns about her safety, her experience on the set of Noah eventually drove her to decline taking selfies with her fans. In an interview with Vanity Fair in 2017, she said, "If someone takes a photograph of me and posts it, within 2 seconds they've created a marker of exactly where I am within 10 meters. They can see what I'm wearing and who I'm with. I just can't give that tracking data." One method I can think of to take a selfie without intentionally putting Emma's life in danger would be to go to a discreet area, but even that can backfire. If it's possible for a stalker, or a swarm of them on Kiwi farms that forced Keefles to flee Canada for a couple months, to cross-reference bedsheets in a motel room to find out where their victim is staying, then Emma Watson's decision is not an overreaction. The only scenario where she feels safe to pose for a selfie would be at a public event where fan encounters are expected. She also doesn't say no to kids and the occasional fan who she feels deserves one. Emma's willing to talk to you, but don't approach her expecting a picture with her. Jodie Foster and Emma Watson have gotten sympathy from the public and are praised for setting boundaries, but for Aaron Carter, not so much in the replies, am I right, and they revive the argument that male victims are met with contempt if they speak up. I cannot fathom the thought of men that survived abuse or have been stalked coming across these replies, thinking that now they can't tell their friends, more specifically their guy friends, if the general reaction is along the lines of, "You are lucky to be getting that attention, bro. I would have wanted that." It sets us back to the notion where we think all men are poonhounds. They just want sex and nothing else, so who cares if they say they don't want it, according to these users. That perception is detrimental on our progress to prevent harassment. Until I see that change, I firmly believe that male victims are never going to be given the same kind of support female victims do, and truthfully, it's a wonder why men are several times more likely to die from suicide than women. Just because Aaron Carter has a willy, it doesn't make his experience with stalkers and obsessive fans any less agonizing. It's either the Carter family gave up on Aaron or they care deeply for him, neither of which are mutually exclusive. Also, victims of abuse can still develop feelings for their perpetrators of that abuse to avoid conflict, and I've had that happen to me in the last couple months I was with my ex. It was the reason I caught in my own flame when I was new at studying cluster B personality disorders, so what exactly are you trying to prove by telling me that Aaron genuinely loved Nick? Shay and Melissa have now groomed Aaron. His own family pushed him away. The Yahoo article that archived Aaron's tweets reveals that allegedly his family, mainly his brother, abused him since childhood, and he witnessed Paris Hilton suffer that abuse when she and Nick were together. It's crucial to remember that Aaron continuously changes his story, so we can never truly tell if what he's saying is actually true. It's one thing to blow a gasket when your older brother has cut you out, but when we put the allegations Nick is facing and Aaron's live streams on Instagram into consideration, some of his claims in these tweets begin to appear plausible. I wrongfully assumed that he was blowing off steam and that posting these tweets was his way of crying out for Nick's love. I deeply regret it now because Aaron was not looking for his approval. The flurry of tweets where he accused his siblings of SA amongst comparing Nick to Jeff Epstein was a reaction to the suffering he had endured at the hands of his family. I'm not going to read through the entire article, but I am going to have a look at Aaron's tweets. Even though his claim that Nick is a serial rapist is his word against his for the time being, that accusation alone is still chilling. Nick is the Kanye West of your day. Aaron replied, "No, he isn't. He's the Jeffrey Epstein." And someone replied to a tweet that Aaron posted where he said he contacted Dr. Phil with a gift that stated, "I smell a rat." Aaron quote tweeted this person by stating, "I smell a serial rapist." That's how the initial accusation began. I don't trust Dr. Phil personally because he lost his license to practice medicine, yet he still has a talk show. I find that to be unethical. Aaron continues, "Yes, my brother. It's the truth or I would have already gone to jail." I'm not going to nitpick on his grammar because in this context it worries me. The cases were dismissed. Have you ever heard of corrupt systems or money and abuse of power and celebrity status to silence your accusers? Yes, I have, and I can believe it, in light of Shay's lawsuit. Aaron claims Nick abused him throughout their lives. It gets a little more graphic from there, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. Several times he has shared a clip of Nick giving him a pie to the face at the Kids' Choice Awards in 2001. I was 13. Look at my brother's face before he broke my nose with a pie at the Kids' Choice Awards during my acceptance speech. He's bullying these women with power and money, and now I'm back, and powerful, and wealthy, and healthy. Nick cannot stop his own reckoning. Then there's a gif where Nick pies Aaron's face, and he claims that's what caused his nose to get broken. Bro, you fired shots first. I'm a man now. Guys in the video on House of Carter's Nick says, "That's the first time you came at me." That's a direct indication from his mouth saying he's done before to me many times. He's an abusive human to me my whole life. Watch the video.
The way you talk to me is like I'm your little kid, dude. You don't give me any respect at all.
Is there any, no, respect me. I'm gonna go to sleep at 12
Oh,
o'clock.
then go to sleep at 12.
But please no music.
You say this every night.
Yeah, but let me tell you something real quick. You're gonna turn the music down and respect me,
Hey,
all right?
spit in my face,
all right?
dog. Don't spit in my face,
all right?
man.
You're gonna respect
Don't
me.
spit in my
You're gonna
face.
respect me.
Don't spit in my
You're gonna
face,
respect me.
Nick.
You're gonna
Don't
respect
spit
me.
in my face.
You're gonna
I'm
respect
sick of
me.
you doing this to me.
You're gonna
Stop
respect
it.
me.
Stop it.
You're gonna respect me.
Stop it. What are you doing?
You're gonna respect.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
You're gonna respect my
Get
house.
out of my room. What are you doing?
No, yeah, let's go. Let's go, baby. Let's go. On the police.
You guys, no, don't.
You came at me. You don't see what he did to me.
Shut the up. I didn't come at you. Excuse me? I walk away from you. Every time you fight with me, I run away from you. Excuse me? You're not a good person, and everybody sees it, Nick.
I am not a good person.
Because of what you do.
What I do, I never do that. You came at me, Aaron. You don't remember getting hold of me
in my face? You don't remember that? And that's when you bit me.
He goes like this. He goes like this with my face up against the door like that.
There's intention. All because of the Paris situation.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. We're gonna get this open right now. Everybody wants to know the truth. You want to know why I don't trust my brother? Why he doesn't respect me? I'm gonna tell you why. Because when I broke up with Paris, this guy takes her out, gets
And tried.
The next day I find phone in the car. And who is it? It's his phone taking a picture of her smiling like this in my Cadillac.
But I never did anything with her. I never touched her.
When I told him I'm over and he goes out with her on a date.
Just so you know.
So thank the Lord that I am not like you.
Oh, he broke my nose several times. My side too, and it's been in front of all you Backstreet Boys fans, and you've allowed it, and knew. Call him immature if you want. In fact, call him immature all you like, but I think that if he's posting a series of tweets where he's saying that Nick has been abusive to him his entire life and has also been abusive to women, and he's living in fear, that's something to be concerned about. And the fact that he's being made fun of for it just makes me sick. Listen, Paris Hilton knows what's going on. Trust me. She doesn't need to be dragged into anything because my truth is my truth, and I witnessed the abuse to Paris, my brother. I was there. Not trusting the crying emoji. That's just crocodile tears for me. I'm not stopping the truth, and you're all scared, because you know it. You know it. I can't live my life knowing this happened to all these women, and it being my abusive brother. After what he did to Paris, I should have never trusted him and me that day. He beat me up in front of her. Oh my God. Aaron alludes to something Nick allegedly did to one of the girls in my family, that being one of his sisters, but adds no further information about it, because he's terrified of what Nick will do to him. Now it's Nick's turn to tell the truth of what he did to one of the girls in my family, since my truth is all out there, and I hope all survivors of assault or rape find peace and justice. And I'm so crazy, right? Exactly. I was also doing drugs, then got myself help. Lauren and Nick allegedly tried to buy a video of me from my assistants Dawn and Gwen overdosing Huffling Duster to sell to the media. Holy shoot. So, Aaron's assistant never took care of him. She was just another person that exploited him. And he quote tweeted his assistant. Shots fired. Hey Nick, Carter, and Lauren Kitt, if you guys are going to be petty pieces of shit, why don't you also release a statement about how you tried to sell footage of Aaron fucked up when all he wanted was to get help? And now you're concerned? This is my assistant Dawn, and a lot of you know Gwen, my other executive assistant, who have both been with me for 10 years. Aaron also claimed his sister Leslie, who died in 2012, raped him from the age of 10 to 13. My sister Leslie suffered from bipolar and took lithium to treat it. She never liked the way it made her feel, and when she was off of it, she did things that she never meant to do. I truly believe that. I was 10 years old. I have spent the last 15 years of my life going through therapy for abuse and rape. I've been through many different treatments. I have finally found the right treatment. I've had my ups and downs. I continue to work on my mental health, and I will soon not have to take anything. My sister raped me from the age of 10 to 13 years old, and when she wasn't on her medications, and I was abused not only sexually by her, but by the first two backup dancers when I was 8 years old, and my brother abused me my whole life. Oh my God, it only gets worse and worse. And Aaron replied to another fan he quote tweeted, who said, Angel hasn't been arrested for violence or accused of assault. She's the one saying you made those remarks, not Nick. I am so deeply disappointed in my sister Angel, who was doing so well after her arrest for shoplifting on Xanax. She has had therapy for many, many years, and I'm sorry to see her be bought off and lie. That's probably why it wasn't in the news. And even if there was an article out, it's probably hidden in the search results on Google, Bing, or another search engine where you might try to look up an incident where Angel was shoplifting. I hope somebody drug tests my sister right away so there's no chance she could harm her own child. P.S. Angel, you are smoking weed while breastfeeding your infant. Oh my God. What an awesome twin sister, testifying against her brother, who I've done so much for Angel when he turned 18 and paid her car off and her apartment in Orlando and let her move to Palazzo with me and all of my other sisters for a year when Angel always destroyed my cars. Good grief, I can feel the betrayal in his tweets. I can tell that Aaron truly felt like he was stabbed in the back. He also said that he also mentioned that he had never been diagnosed with bipolar or schizophrenia disorders. So even though on the doctors he said that he has it. I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't know if he's trying to come off as normal or something, but this might be another case where he's changing his story. But I'm genuinely concerned. He also posted about voluntarily surrounding 2 of my rifles. However, he deleted the post soon after. So today, I decided to voluntarily allow the sheriff's department to hold on to 2 of my rifles. I'm doing this to show my good faith in cooperation with law enforcement. Good call. That way, he wouldn't be able to hurt himself. So for the most part, all of this is a lot to take in. And the fact that Nick abused him for his entire life, especially on that episode of The House of Carters where that clip resurfaced. I'm surprised that he hadn't gotten out sooner, or had anyone in his life intervene sooner. But then again, it's not surprising that people who are in abusive relationships stay in them them, and that made me regret having stayed with my ex for the next couple of months after we had that fight that July. I feel awfully sorry for Aaron. For the most part, Aaron has tweeted these accusations in an attempt to get the word out as best he could, but his claims were immediately dismissed because his fanbase perceived him as being vengeful and rage-driven. They kept commenting, "Aaron's crying wolf, he's a big narcissist," and have made fun of his substance abuse to portray him as insane for making these claims, all while his safety was threatened repeatedly. It got me thinking that it might be possible that his siblings were attempting to seize control of his estate before his death to prevent him from correcting his mistakes and, more importantly, help the women that alleged Nick assaulted them. However, Nick's attorney, Michael Holtz, tells us, as our counterclaim sets out in detail, Nick has been the target of a malicious and long-running conspiracy. He has never done the outrageous things of which he has been accused. In fact, he is the victim of a calculated and concerted disinformation campaign designed to destroy his reputation, the lawyer continues. He looks forward to setting out the truth, vindicating himself in court, and putting an end to the smears and attempted shakedowns for good. Try not to send death threats and links to Trojan sites to YouTubers while you're at it. Then the rest of the article gives a brief summary of Shay's lawsuit, the press conference she gave, and the initial statement made by Nick's lawyer. What a surprise! The accusations against Shay and Melissa listed in Nick Carter's countersuit pushes the same narrative that literally everyone else is posting about on Twitter and the Backstreet Boys subreddit. The lack of substance when it mentioned Aaron was groomed is laughable because it doesn't make sense that his own family discarded him when he was alive, but because he's no longer with us, then all of a sudden they're protective of his name. It's also scary because incidents where he was stalked are glossed over, and since this off-putting behavior is the only aspect that has gotten attention in the mainstream media, I'm frightened that it will lead more people to look down on those that turn to illicit substances to escape their pain, even if it's just for a little while. This brings me to talk about the charity concert that was held in his honor. Until now, I purposely chose to leave it alone because I perceived it as an equivalent to a funeral. The concert raised $150,000 and the proceeds went to On Our Sleeves. It's an excellent cause that strives to help kids with mental illness. It was emotional for Nick to give a speech about Aaron because there were moments where he got choked up on stage. I didn't want to come off as disrespectful by establishing how he should properly mourn the loss of a loved one. Nick Carter also published a single dedicated to Aaron titled "Hurts to Love You." I listened to it and I was absolutely moved by his voice. I enjoyed it so much that I didn't notice how the lyrics can be interpreted as an abuser gaslighting their victim. "You know it hurts to love you, but I love you still" is like a comment spoken softly by an abuser to make their victim feel guilty for standing their ground in the guise of wanting what's best for them. Oh God, now I can visualize Mother Gothel singing "Hurts to Love You" to Rapunzel. It changes the meaning of the song completely, and it makes my interpretation obvious. It's not my place to tell Nick how he should process his grief nonetheless, but sadly, I found videos of a couple of speeches given at the concert that were inappropriate for the event. My sympathy receded faster than a truck driver slamming their foot on the brakes. They did not pay tribute to Aaron at all and instead kept the narrative going that Nick is a saint. I'll play the recordings of the speeches given by Johnny Raitt and Lori Knight that were tweeted by a fan account if I don't get copyrighted to oblivion before I talk about why exactly their so-called eulogies bothered me. That is, if we can call them that, because Aaron's accomplishments were only mentioned in passing. I mean, just barely mentioned in passing.
At 19, he came back to me, but when he came back to me, a lot of problems started to happen. So I have a place in Orlando called the Compound, and that's where a lot of these acts had built their craft from. So I had Aaron there for a year working on his craft, but things went downhill. I had a phone call with Nick, and I want to tell you the story because it pisses me off when I have to hear people say that there was such a negative thing between Nick and Aaron. Okay? So in my conversation with Nick, he said, Johnny, look, let's get together. Let's talk to Aaron. Let's put him in rehab. We put him in the Betty Ford Clinic. He was scheduled to be there for 90 days, but checked himself out after 30. I said to Aaron, I said, why are you checking yourself out? He said, Johnny, I'm fine. Johnny, I'm fine. But he wasn't fine. He was dealing with two different personalities of Aaron. The good, honest kid that you see right there, and the demons that were tearing him apart. And even with trying to get help, he couldn't let go of those demons because he felt that he was alone, that he didn't have anyone to help support him through that process. Even though Angel was there, even though Nick was there, even though Jane, the entire family, for some strange reason, the demons took control of him and made him believe that nobody cared about him. So I say this because the internet is a crazy place. And I'm a victim of this myself. If someone sends me an Instagram or a tweet of negativity about somebody, the first thing I'll do is I'll look at it and I'll send it on to somebody else. But what I should do is reach out to that person and say, are you okay? Can I help you? Can I uplift you?
For all of you that have always wondered about my silence or Angel's or Nick's, trust me, we've been fighting like hell to save him. Thank you. So hard. We just don't talk about it. It's sad. And we tried so hard, and there were times where Aaron was great, and when he was great, he was great. To Nick, if anybody doesn't think that man has done stuff for Aaron, they know nothing about Nick. They know nothing about Nick. And Aaron and him started making amends before Aaron's passing, but Aaron would say, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. To Angel, he would say, I'm so proud of you. And I will tell you, Nick, when we were on tour and Aaron was low about something, Nick was the man I called all the time. He would talk to him for hours. He would fly in on his one day off from his own tour to spend 6 hours with Aaron to make him feel better. Angel was his North Star. Whenever he got too lost, Angel was the person he turned to. And now he's going to be her North Star. And I'm so proud of her too, and I'm so proud of Nick. And I hope the people that are trying to stir up trouble, please stop, because it just makes the trauma worse.
Not as much as it could. What is that supposed to mean? I'm not getting fired. I'm not getting fired.
And like I said in my last video, if you claim you knew Aaron personally before going on to say that Nick is a good person and that it was peaches and cream between them their whole lives, you didn't know him as well as you think you did. People who are friends with Shay, had relatives that worked with the Carter family, lived near them, or knew Aaron have gone on record saying that Nick is a violent, if not predatory, individual. By preaching that it pisses you off that you see us say there's a negative thing between Nick and Aaron and we know nothing about the former, you come off as a pompous arse who's implying that people who are concerned about Aaron's well-being, especially his real-life friends and Nick's accusers because of what he put them through, don't know what they're talking about. You're insecure, you're obviously projecting because Aaron wanted nothing to do with you, and you probably have delusions of grandeur because you're preaching that Nick and Aaron always have this loving relationship when the reality is there was constant turmoil between them. It's like a car accident on a freeway we can't take our eyes off of. Aaron had no choice but to praise his siblings in hopes that the stalking outside his home would stop. The same reason why Shay had to tone down her wording when she first came forward. Lori mentioned that Nick spent the day off from his own tour to console Aaron and cheer him on as proof that the brothers do care for one another. It's a touching story, but she didn't specify what tour and how long ago that was, because the brothers haven't spoken in 4 years before Nick and Angel filed for the restraining order, which looks suspicious. Okay, I'm calm now. Okay, I'm calm. Family drama in of itself is not our business. If there was a father and a son arguing in a supermarket, for example, bystanders may not be willing to stand in because it's a personal issue. I get it. To me, however, if someone involved in that drama is being abused and they don't feel safe in that environment, then it becomes everyone's business. If you plan to make a speech on camera about how much Aaron means to you, mention the good times you've had that were linked to his music, his accomplishments, and what it was like meeting him in person. Just remember that there was a negative thing between Nick and Aaron, and don't be a snob by saying there isn't. The charity concert was not a good time to belittle the younger brother's fans. If you're going to ask me, well, if you cared about Aaron, why aren't you at Songs for Tomorrow? What is it that you want me to say? Do you need me to lay my armor down and say, oops, my mistake. Nick raised money for his estranged brother, so he's free to go? He can keep beating people up, I guess? I don't know. Johnny's speech was a little more practical because he touched on Aaron's poor mental health and that his family did actually try to get him help, but he kept resisting it. He insisted, I'm fine, I'll be okay, which I don't blame him for because I'm pretty much the same in real life. I always answer, I'm doing alright, thank you, how about you? No matter what mindset I'm in whenever someone asks me, how are you? If Aaron is resisting treatment, perhaps it's because the facility wasn't providing him with the help he needed. His family was more than likely going to put him through worse, and it goes back to what he mentioned in a live stream where he said they were trying to rob him of his estate. Programs for the neurodivergent do exist where they are infantilized or vilified, and when they are discharged, they turn out to be much worse. Johnny's speech, while grounded and sentimental, was offhand because he ignores what was going through Aaron's head and why he was trying to get away from his family. It's like they're still treating him as the child star that made Nick's name at the start of his career. While the charity concert was advertised as dedicated to Aaron and Hurts to Love You truly was, it was primarily lip service because none of Johnny's and Lori's speeches touched on Aaron's career and his passions. The plan to distract us from the allegations against Nick was in plain sight. To further ruin the charity concert's beauty, a singer who's a friend of Aaron's that goes by the alias Check the Star posted 2 videos on TikTok saying that he abstained from attending. He's not well liked by Aaron's fanbase for his association with Melanie Martin, Aaron's ex-fiancée, but he said exactly what I was just thinking about the event. He uploaded another where he confirmed that the stalking incidents that Aaron was haunted by in the last years of his life were legitimate. He's one of the few people who recognized that he was in constant pain, even from people who feigned to have cared about him.
A lot of y'all are asking me, yo, Check, how was the Songs for Tomorrow event? Did you go? No, I did not go. It wasn't for Aaron. That event was never for Aaron. It was set up for Nick Carter to look good. It's a press stunt. Come on, guys. The fact that y'all actually had me and Mel banned from going there is just sick, too. Like, be real with yourselves. What is you really doing this for? Y'all haven't noticed how many pawns there is in this little game? The man never felt comfortable, never felt safe, even inside of his own home. He was attacked on every corner. His own personal assistants were sponging money off of him. His child was being taken away. He couldn't even make music in peace because his neighbors were constantly bothering him. Personal assistants baiting him to come outside so TMZ can take pictures of the baby when it's born, like getting caught on camera trying to bring him things that he should not be taking. While we're all doing wellness checks on him and nothing ever happens. But we enabled him, right? Now Lena writing me messages talking about he wouldn't have came around me. Yes, he would have, and he did. He was my best friend. I'm sorry that you don't get that through your head, but we was actually like this. Nick, you was not there. I remember many times he would try to be like, man, should I call my brother? Do you think he'll answer this time? No, you never did. You never cared, and now you're pretending like you are. Come on, man. All to cover up your own allegations. Come on, make it make sense. Y'all look at it.
It's funny that Melanie wasn't allowed to be at the concert because you'd think she'd want to attend to honor Aaron. She was engaged to him and they had a child together. The relationship was rocky, to put it mildly, but they were close. Notwithstanding their quote-unquote intimacy, I think I know why she wasn't there. Shortly after Aaron's death, his family and Melanie had a nasty battle in court where they were vying to gain full custody of his son, Prince. He was in Melanie's mother's care during that time because tensions between the couple were high. Melanie was in New York when the verdict was made, so her legal team had to reach out to her with the news that she won. She was ecstatic and returned to California at once to reunite with Prince. Her intent was to start a family, so Aaron's death had driven her to want to reconnect with his own. At first, I was relieved that Melanie won that battle because I was under the impression that Prince would be raised by a loving mother that stood with the man she promised to marry. Then, I recalled that Melanie had abused him when they were together.
So, basically, yes, she threw something at me. You guys all watched it, so. And then the ex-girlfriends that get broken up with, next thing you know, a week later, well, make sure you guys clip that because I want nothing to do with her. So, no more. Nothing. She lied to me about something very serious. I'm not gonna tell you guys right now, but it was one of the main reasons why I couldn't trust her. So, and then she also spoke to Lauren, Kit, and to Angel when we were broken up. Just like Lena. Valentina. But I do. Can you guys tell her that to leave and to leave me alone? DM her, tell her, like, I'm done. She tells me what to dress, tells me what colors of hair that she wants. She spent $10,000 of my money on cosmetics, hair, and makeup in less than 3 weeks. She told me I'm the devil, right? So I wrote it in this book. It's called I Am the Devil.
She was arrested for said abuse on a felony charge. She faked having broken ribs in an attempt to frame Aaron for domestic violence and has recently began to stalk her late fiance's fans. Now I'm like, oh crap, the boy's going to end up like his father. But regardless of who would have gotten custody of Prince, he won't grow up in a safe home. At Jane Carter's direction, she convinced Angel to file a petition for her to manage Aaron's estate, but the law won't allow it. He never had a will. I'll end this video with these questions to ponder on. What would you have said to Aaron if you met him in person? What would you have done to help him, knowing what you know now? Otherwise, let me know what you think down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a good night.
Go.